Hello, good evening, folks. I'm Christine. I'm the curriculum lead for art, and the course leader for fine art. And I'm just here this evening to tell you a little bit about the course. I prepared a short presentation. A couple of reasons for that. The first being so that we're less likely to be disturbed by cats coming into the room and children shouting and so on. I've already had to go downstairs twice in the last 5 minutes to ask for some quiet. So hopefully we'll be okay. We're going to use chat. So chat's on during the presentation. It's going to be on all the way through. If you've got any questions that come up and anything you like answering, you can use the chat just to ask those. And at the end of the presentation, I'll just have a read through the chat and see if I can just make sure that everyone's had some answers to their questions. We are on a sort of finite time scale this evening. So if I don't have a chance to answer all the questions or there's anything else that you need to know, please feel free to email me at c.dean@homefirthhigh.co.uk. As a reflective practitioner, I have had a look through the video, cringe, and there's a couple of points that perhaps I missed out. I do think, I hope if I haven't come across as it's only a good course for really strong artists or really talented artists. It's a course for students for wherever they're at with art. I think that the key message really is I'm there to meet them at the level they're at and to improve them and to get them to where they'd like to be and to enjoy the GCSE. I think the key message is, as long as the students are passionate about the subject and they're really engaged with that, I think if looking at some of it's nice to see some of these familiar names here, whether they're students or parents, surnames that I recognise. But I think that's the key message, really, to enjoy the GCSE in art at whatever level the student's at, and to move forward with it. There does need to be that genuine engagement with the subject. So that's a real battle won before we start. So without further ado, I will play the somewhat clunky video, and then you can feel free to ask questions, like I say, in the chat, and to add any reviews afterwards. So we'll see if we can share this screen with you. GCSE Art and Design, Fine Art, and we're studying with the exam board AQA. If you want some more information, I've put a link below. You could copy that down quickly or just do a Google search for AQA Art and Design GCSE, and from there you can quite quickly find the specification for all the art and design courses available from AQA. And if you just look for Fine Art, it'll give you more information, more depth about the course, the specifics, the assessment, things that we haven't really got time to go through in just 10 minutes tonight. So the first thing I want to do is to dispel one common misconception. Art is not an easy option. It's not an easy choice. It is a nice choice, but it's not an easy one. During lockdown, we've been watching quite a few GCSE art students discussing their work on YouTube to get ideas and inspiration. They basically talk through how they got a top grade in art and design, and pretty much without exception, they all start their videos with a statement like this, similar to this one, and just saying it is a hard subject. It is a hard subject, particularly if you're aiming for the very top grade. Having said that, however, if you really enjoy art, it's a great subject to study at GCSE. It provides a nice breadth to your learning experience, and I think it's a creative balance for perhaps some of the more constrained subjects. It gives you the chance to explore yourself through a creative and reflective practice, and it offers a range of creative skills that I believe modern employers are really looking for in a 21st century workplace. So why choose AQA for GCSE Art and Design? The specification that they offer gives us freedom to engage with art and design in ways that inspire and bring out the best in you. And it also equips you with the skills to continue the subject with confidence if you do go on to do a level 3 AS, A-level course, and beyond that into degree level. So I think it's a really important consideration. As well as teaching the basics of drawing and painting, printmaking, ceramics, the course that we're running also offers a focus on development of the whole student, the creation of a love of learning.
So naturally the course focuses on the development of skills for art and design, but teaching staff are mindful of transferable skills, life skills that will prepare students for a variety of subjects, situations at Key Stage 4, 5 and beyond. The current art and design curriculum at Home Firth High School sets out to ensure that learners will develop as independent learners. Developing ideas at GCSE involves research skills, cross-referencing, Harvard referencing, and we provide a lot of material which could support students as they go into these kind of areas. So we look at analysis and deconstruction of work, leading to synthesis of ideas. We look at risk-taking, and we want students to make mistakes and learn through their experience and develop their resilience. So quite often in some subjects, there is a right or a wrong answer. In art, we're looking through, for finding out how not to do it, as long as we kind of learn how to do it in the long run. So problem solving is a big part of art and design. We use idea sharing and critique sessions to develop communication skills. So really getting students to work as small groups, see themselves as an artistic community within the school, build their confidence when they're discussing their own work and the work of their peers. We're asking them to become reflective practitioners, to look at their own work, to identify strengths and weaknesses, and to come up with strategies that are going to help them improve as young artists. So what's involved in the actual course? Well, the course is made up of two components. The first is a portfolio component. So the portfolio is basically in fine art, the student needs to produce one final complete project. This is going to be a response to an idea, a theme. So we initially do a project on identity, and I'll talk to you a bit more about that in a minute. So that's the first part of it, and that's worth 60%. It takes them all of year 10, and we usually work until Christmas in year 11, and then there will be an externally set assignment in year 11 from January until the end of the course, and usually finish in about April or May with a 10-hour time that's under supervised time. So it's not an exam, it's just 10 hours of doing a final piece in supervised conditions. So basically the course starts off with ideas, recording ideas. So we would use mind mapping, we'd use mood boards. I've just got some examples here for you on the screen. So looking at the identity project, we're looking at what makes up a student's identity. We look at self-awareness, ego, we maybe go into a little bit of cross-curricular information with that. We look at recording initial ideas, so taking those initial ideas from the mind map and then start to develop them more with visualizing them so that people can understand how the ideas are going to work. It could be with thumbnail sketches, we're using images from the internet to inspire the students, and then they go on and develop those ideas in more depth and detail, considering how they're going to work. At the start of the course, we do a lot of work with building confidence. So we do work on traditional drawing and monoprinting. These are more ideas development. So this is as a project's developing. We do a project sometimes on animals, or animals might be one of the interests in the student's identity. But the traditional drawing skills are not ignored. We do a lot of work on proportion of the face, and developing confidence. Initially through something monoprinting. So this is a monoprinting. This is a technique that uses ink. It's almost like a tracing technique, but there's a bit more to it than that. So it's looking at using different weights and textures of mark making, using different instruments to make marks, and it builds students' confidence without them having to worry too much in the first instance about the drawing skills. And we develop those in the background. So it's giving students a chance to produce some really, really fantastic work that they can look at and be really pleased with, and building their confidence and their skill set. And then they can move it forward, so they start to look at their own images. They're working from maybe popular pop icons or whatever they're interested in. They could continue to work on self-portraits and using photographs. So we build up their work in that way. And then we use monoprinting to do the basic proportions. So here on the screen, we can see the human face here, this has actually been monoprinted with white ink on black paper, and the students start to test materials so they can produce tonal painting. So we start to build up painting techniques, but still working within that framework of the proportions being used with a monoprint just to build confidence. And that can result, as you can see, in some fantastic tonal painted pieces that, again, the students can celebrate their success with. We look at then developing their ideas through analysis that we've previously mentioned, so deconstructing other artists' work, and that's the work we can see here on the left-hand side, and that's the student deconstructing it. And then they're saying what they're planning to do. So what are they going to do as a result of this? And they go on, and here the students looked at this artist, Sean Williams, who uses typography in a tonal way to create portraits around popular culture. And then this student has used their own photograph to create their own portrait using similar techniques, but you can see she's given it her own kind of slant with different fonts and typefaces. So she's actually taken Sean Williams' work and, in my opinion, improved on it by using a variety of font sizes, of logos, and so on. Here you can see, again, a deconstruction of the work of Julian Opie, pop artist, a contemporary artist still working now. And then on the right-hand side, we do use ICT. My background is in graphics, although I've got a degree in fine art. And we do use that to develop the work of the students from their own photographs into a Julian Opie style portrait. And again, you know, students start to put their own slants on that and go in some quite interesting directions. We look at a variety of techniques and materials, and ceramics is something that we've been very much trying to bring back into Holmfirth High School. There's a tradition of ceramics in the Home Valley, as some of you will know, and you know, I do think it's important we get that back into Holmfirth. We've been investing quite a lot of money in the materials and the infrastructure to make ceramics very much a part of the course at Key Stage 4 and the GCSE, and the students have gone on to produce some quite interesting ceramics work, working pretty much in quite low relief at the moment, but looking to develop that into higher relief, into some more some slip casting. And again, I've got some skill sets there which we're hoping to bring in soon. And then when they've tested materials and worked through different ideas, we move on to final pieces, and that's the last assessment objective. And this is just sharing some of the students' outcomes here, some through painting on the left, mixed media, paint and collage on the right, more traditional painting here, both of these two different works, painting, and this is printmaking on the right-hand side. And then the second component, component 2, just to give you an example of what's expected. A lot of students, they worry about this 10-hour exam at the end of year 11. But basically, the component 2, the externally set assignment, is a series of questions that just develop as another project. So it's just the same as the projects they do during year 10, but it's set around an externally set task. So I've just given 4 examples here in the news, materials, personal histories, and connections. And the way that I run component 2 is that I asked the students if they could do anything they wanted, anything at all, if the sky was the limit, then I get them to write down, they could set themselves a project for art, just to write it down, exactly what they would do. And then I just show them how they can fit this into one of the exam questions. There's always an externally set question. For example, materials here. Investigate appropriate sources and produce your own response to materials. It's such an open question. Connections is similar, personal histories is similar, that you can fit any project into it. So they just have 10 weeks or 12 weeks to develop their ideas, to go through, record ideas with a mind map, similarly to the work I've just shown you. And then they'll have that time during 10 hours to come up with a final piece. They can start elements of the final piece before the 10 hours, and they don't need to finish it within the 10 hours. So it's really not this kind of big pressure situation that some students think it's going to be. Often students will say, do we have to do the 10 hours all at the same time? Obviously not. We do it over 2 days, and 2 5-hour sessions broken up with normal lunch and break times as usual. So it's a fantastic course. I think, you know, if the student likes art, they're good at art, they've really engaged with art, you know, that's the key thing. If you've got students who are perhaps, you know, getting 3s and 4s for behaviour and effort in art and aren't doing homework, it will be a struggle for for both the student and for me. So think carefully, but I think it's a lovely balance for some of the other subjects. The students get to move around the room a little bit more, or hopefully they will when we get out of lockdown. But it does provide that balance and that breadth of curriculum. Finally, the work is celebrated around the school, and those of you who've been into Holmfirth High School, and more, I think art is such a valued part of the curriculum. And we celebrate the work. It's all around the school. Quite some of the pictures I've taken, I've had to wander around the school and get pictures from the walls. It's also celebrated as part of the yearly exhibition. So this is a photograph of the exhibition from a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, we couldn't have one last year for obvious reasons. Parents and local dignitaries are invited to the exhibition. We're also looking to get more involved in some more local exhibitions like the Holmfirth Art Week, and students are invited to take part in the Royal Academy Young People Summer Show, and the students have put their work forward for that recently as well, which can lead to their work being displayed in the Royal Academy, which is quite prestigious. Just going to show you this image that we started the PowerPoint with, and the reason I'm showing you this is a girl's work from year 10. And it's a developmental piece towards a final piece. So it's a test piece working in oil paint and collage. And this is a piece of work by the same girl when she was in year 7. And quite often we'll have students at a young age who, say, I can't draw, I can't do it. This is a student, I'd love to take credit for the development of this young lady from this piece to this piece. However, this is a student who has engaged with the coursework at Key Stage 3, but has also engaged with tutorials online and practiced and developed the work and had that kind of can-do attitude to move from this sort of work in year 7 to 3 or 4 years later, this kind of work in year 10. So I would say consider the course, consider whether you enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, then go for it.
So hopefully that's kind of covered most things. The only other thing I just looked at watching that myself was it did give the impression that we only really do one project on identity. We do an identity project at the start of year 10, and that takes us through to about Easter. We then tend to do a mini project, which is looking at skill building around some arbitrary theme, perhaps animals or food, where we look at printmaking and ceramics and just build skills towards the start of year 11. And then we tend to have a second project, which is called a mock exam. And it just does give the students a bit of a chance to do some work under those supervised conditions towards sort of November, December time. So it's not just one project. The students only need one completed project, so we can kind of cherry pick then the best work from the sort of 2.5 projects to put forward to their final portfolio. So there's a couple of questions that have come up in chat, and please do ask some more questions if you've thought of anything that you'd like to know about. So what one person's just asked, just in terms of students that looking after the work at school or carrying it to and fro. We tend to work in A3 sketchbooks, and some students work on a larger scale, and certainly encouraged to work on a larger scale. We do provide the sketchbooks. There is a voluntary contribution, I think, like most subjects in the school, but it is voluntary, and we do provide folders at a cost. So we get some pretty reasonably priced large plastic folders. You've probably seen kids wandering around the streets with them, that they can keep their work safe in to and from school. So hopefully that answers that. At school, we've got drawers and cubby holes and so on. Year 10, they tend to have cubby holes. However, we are in the process of this summer investing tens of thousands of pounds in updating both of the art rooms, A2 and A3. We're talking possibly over £100,000 in modernising, updating all the facilities, including the storage in those rooms. So watch this space for that. Very exciting times. Another question was, can students choose their media for final piece for the 60%, or can they do ceramics? Yeah, it's a good question. We really look, I can't see the surname, but John there, at developing as many skills as we can. So we're trying to give the students a real gamut of experience and confidence. And then we look at where they feel confident. So as you work towards final pieces for the initial project, we start off with those quite didactic in terms of the materials. You can see we all might look at certain artists, certain styles, monoprinting and so on. And then after Christmas in year 10, it starts to become, for those that can handle it, a lot more, kind of give them a lot more autonomy in terms of the way they pursue their ideas for identity. So, you know, trying to encourage them to test materials, find out their own ways of working. So yeah, the answer is, you know, they can do anything they like. One student for their identity project made a sort of 6-foot tall dog out of corrugated cardboard last year, whilst another one might have been working on a very small scale, you know, a piece of printmaking. So really, I want to have as much breadth as we can of materials using, because when kids see other kids working in certain ways, they get inspired to try things as well, and it's just good for the whole kind of community, if you like. Another question is, how many questions are there in the written test? There's no, excuse me, there's no written test, but the annotation and notes are a factor, so that there is an element of written work in both components, but it's really annotation. In terms of the component 2 and the externally set questions, which is what you might mean there, there's usually between 6 and 8 questions, and like I say, there's always a couple that are very, very open, so you can interpret them and basically do something that you like doing. But they also do provide a nice framework for students who perhaps, you know, if you give them too much scope to come up with their own ideas, they won't come up with anything. So it can be a nice framework to provide students with inspiration and direction. Another question is, can you take both photography and art as options? I believe this year you can. Yeah, they are. The way they're doing the options blocking this year is you can choose 4 first choices and 4 reserve choices, and the only question mark with sometimes with some of the art courses is whether they have the same what are called QAN codes, which is whether they can count as the same qualification. But certainly this year, for this year's cohort and last year and the 2 years I've been before, where we've been running several art courses at the same time, art and photography can be taken at the same time. It's quite a nice, if you know you're heading down that route as well, there can be a very nice you know, support for one another, fine art, photography and so on. Which teachers teach GCSE? So GCSE, it's just me and Miss Wood. Miss Wood is the teacher that's replaced Mr. Ward this year. Excellent young teacher who's come into the department. I'm not sure if she's teaching you now, Sky, or not, but it's just the qualified art, you know, the art teachers themselves that teach at GCSE. Plenty of places for art. Well, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, we've got 3 GCSE classes, we've got 60 plus students learning GCSE this year. Art and graphics, I'm pretty sure, again, Lucy Newman, that you can take art and graphics. So just double check that maybe when you get to school or with Miss Greaves. But the graphics course is now being run as a design technology course. The graphics course was being run as the AQA graphic communication course. So the answer to that is, I'm pretty sure yes, you can. And when you get your options blocks and your options things, it should say on there, but I haven't seen anything that says you can't. I think they've changed to either DT graphics or Edexcel. I think it's AQA selection, but it's the graphics through DT, which means they're different codes, which means you can do both. But I just double check the graphics. I'm pretty sure photography and art's good to go. Maybe just double check the graphics. There is a slight element of graphics in the fine art, because when you look at art and design nowadays, you know, a lot of fine artists work in very, very design in typographical terms. You know, it's a bit of a melting pot, to be honest. Yeah, it's an interesting question from Ashley there. Would art help with graphics, or fine art help with graphics? I studied more of a kind of art, craft and design route at school. I went on to do an HND in graphic design and worked as a typographer before going and converting to, and did a degree in fine art. So I don't want to put anyone off doing graphics, and if you're really graphically minded, great, and it's a great course, and Miss Greaves does a great job on it. What I would say is possibly doing a more open art course might keep your options open for level 3 for A level. So, you know, having that wider range of experience, you know, that you could, you know, with a good portfolio that's maybe a little bit graphically edged for fine art, you might be able to go to graphics. But if you do feel more in tune with painting and stuff, it would give you that option to go to fine art or to 3D design. Not sure if I'll know the answer to this, but can I go and study at Greenhead College? Harry, it's too late for me, I'm afraid. But yes, of course you can. I do know the answer to that. Greenhead and Kirklees College and the Creative Media College and Holmfirth, HNC, Huddersfield New College, we've got some fantastic courses. I think, you know, Huddersfield New College, you've got they've got some excellent results in a range of courses, and I'm not just saying that because my wife works there. Freya, if you want to be an interior designer, do you have to do art? I think it would. Yes, is probably the answer. Art or perhaps going down the graphics route for level 2. So doing GCSE in graphic communication or DT. DT product as well, quite a large element of drawing and design in that. So maybe just have a word when you get back to school, Freya, and possibly with a couple of DT teachers. But I think, you know, if you're talking to people and you're projecting ideas visually, you know, I think if I had an interior designer around, I'd expect them to be sketching and to be, you know, recording ideas and talking to me with a sketchbook when they came. So I think it'd be a good skill to have. Yes, you do have to study artists. Yeah, part of the project, Gabriella, is to find artists that you like. You do a bit of analysis and deconstruction, and you start to copy their work and understand how they work, and in order to be able to develop their styles and bring their styles into your own practice. So really it's about you developing your style as an artist. But historically, you know, for the last 1,000 or so years, artists have always copied from other artists in order to develop. I think that is all the questions, and we must stop now because I've run over and I'll probably get kicked off if I've gone for too much longer. If you feel like your questions haven't been answered or you've got any other questions to ask, please send me an email and I will be able to respond to that. You want to be a brand designer or architect, and what's the best subject, art or graphics? Again, Alfie, similar to the last question really about the interior designer. For architecture, you want to be thinking about probably physics, maths. I don't bother. They don't say you need physics anymore, but I would be saying I'd be saying art's a good skill to have for drawing and sketching. But you can pick up the drawing and sketching skills possibly in DT, product design, or graphics. So I'd go with what you enjoy most, and if you feel like you wanted to do graphics or DT, you could always come up to the art room at lunchtimes, all being well when we're back in school, and that can give you some work on sketching and drawing. Great, thank you, Helen Wilson. I think it's a really exciting time for art at Holmfirth High School. I think it's really, you know, it's a subject that's celebrated, as are all the arts at Holmfirth. That's been borne out in the investment that Mr. Stitchman's putting into it. And I do think it's an exciting time to be studying art. So thanks everyone for coming. I must end it now. Like I say, any more questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. It's c.dean@holmfirthhigh.co.uk. Thank you.